Hello and welcome to HW News English. Joining me is Mr. Ruben Banerjee, senior journalist and author, for a very special and insightful conversation on Odisha politics. Mr. Banerjee, appreciate you joining me. Let's for viewers, for people who don't know too much about Odisha politics, let's rewind a little bit. Let's take a step back. Uh, in the last 2 months, how do you see the campaign playing out, and what is it that really happened as far as the eastern state of Odisha is concerned?
Well, the result definitely is a surprise. Naveen Patnaik, who has been leading the state, been the chief minister since 2000 uninterruptedly of Orissa, has suddenly been swept out of power. So it's a big upset, big surprise. But those of us who were following the political developments in the state, we knew that something is going wrong for Naveen Patnaik this time. The manner the party and the government in Orissa was being run, uh, Naveen Babu still remains popular. He has a lot of goodwill even now as we talk. And in fact, since he has been voted out of power, he's lost power. I think the sympathy for him has actually multiplied, has increased. And I find a lot of people, including many of my friends and associates, who are very, very disappointed that, oh, how could this happen to a man like Naveen Babu? How could he lose? How could he? This is very undignified, undeserving. So all that is happening. So he's not a hated figure. He never was. But then he would ask me, why did he lose? So as I see it, this time the vote in Orissa was not against Naveen Patnaik per se. The vote was primarily against his chosen successor, Mr. VK Pandian, a former bureaucrat and IAS officer who was engaged as Naveen Babu's private secretary. And over a period of time, Mr. Pandian became very, very close and essentially usurped all the powers that one could usurp. He became the de facto chief minister. Like last 5 years, particularly since 2019 elections, uh, Mr. Pandian actually took control, and I've been saying this consistently over a period of time that, see, we must also take into account that Naveen Babu is really not that young. He's 77, 78 years old. He is not in the best of health. So he also has reasons to gradually recede to the background. So he increasingly went to the background, and Mr. Pandian, together with some of his chosen colleagues, and you may call it them a coterie, took control of both the government. They ran the government. And then late last year, he joined politics and overnight became a big leader of Naveen Patnaik's Biju Janata Dal. And then immediately overnight took control of the party. So he was the undisputed leader. People did not like it. Like, one, Mr. Pandian is seen as an outsider. He's a Tamilian who came to work in Odisha only after getting married to a colleague, an Oriya colleague, in 2000. And Biju Janata Dal is a regional party. Its main agenda is protecting Oriya culture, language, tradition, to promote regional aspirations. And here is a man, an outsider, not a local. He suddenly catapulted as the potential successor of Naveen Patnaik. So people did not like it. People did not. And I think Pandian also being a immature politician, he is a fine bureaucrat, I must say. He's a very effective bureaucrat, as long as he was in the eyes. But he is not a tested politician. He doesn't, like politicians also have to have, a lot of maneuvering and nuances and all that. He doesn't understand all that. So he overdid it. He was straight into the face. He had MLAs and MPs and ministers falling at his feet, touching his feet, publicly addressing him as Sir. Now, 4.5 crore Orias did not appreciate this, because how will they appreciate this? It was an affront to their self-respect, pride, local pride, regional pride, because nobody elected Mr. Pandian. Neither the people, they did not say that he is our leader. Not even the ruling party members, the Biju Janata Dal members, there was no referendum. So no, even the ruling party members did not choose Mr. Pandian as their leader. He was basically foisted on them. And there was a backlash. And that backlash led to anti-Pandian vote, and the damage has been done to Mr. Patnaik. So Mr. Naveen Babu has lost power.
Right. In fact, in a piece you wrote for the Federal, and I'm quoting here. This is what you spoke about VK Pandian. He literally hijacked the party, sidelining most BJD leaders. The more he monopolized and ran the BJD's election campaign almost single-handedly, with Patnaik making only guest appearances, the greater was the revulsion against him. Now, Mr.
Absolutely.
Patnaik, in some of the interviews that he gave, he was very clear that I haven't anointed Mr. Pandian as my successor. It's a natural process, which is the process of picking a successor. It's the people of Odisha. So, are you effectively saying that Mr. Patnaik's loss in the assembly election and even in the Lok Sabha, all of that is just to do with Mr. Pandian, or do you also credit the Bharatiya Janata Party for sort of making strong inroads
See,
there?
I'll put it this way. Number one reason for the debacle for Naveen Patnaik, it's Mr. Pandian, and only Mr. Pandian. Number two, BJP and Modi's popularity and goodwill right now as we speak in the state of Orissa. Whatever that is happening in the rest of the country, Orissa it's different. The ground reality is different, and there is certain goodwill that exists for Mr. Modi right now. Number three, of course, this party of Naveen Patnaik has been in power for 24 years. So they have also, while Naveen Babu remains popular, his government has accrued a lot of anti-incumbency over these years, like uh, education infrastructure. Despite all their tall claims of having transformed the state for the better, the fact of the matter is education infrastructure in the state is crumbling. Orissa has the highest school dropout rate in class 10 in the country. Employment. Unemployment is soaring. It's 44.5% or something. Inflation, retail inflation. It's the highest in the country in Orissa. Drinking water, pipe drinking water, safe drinking water. The coverage in rural areas or areas of Orissa is far less than what the national average is. There are a whole lot of every year migration is rampant. People migrating out of the state, looking for decent livelihood. So obviously, all these indicates that things are not fine at home. There were a lot of issues, so they were all bubbling, and these are lived experiences of the people, right? So you cannot deny them, even if you run a glitzy electoral campaign and all that. I think what happened with the Biju Janata Dal and Naveen Patnaik in 2024 kind of reminded me of what happened in 2004 to Mr. Vajpayee. Vajpayee, that NDA government ran India Shining campaign. In Orissa, Naveen Patnaik and his team ran a transformation campaign. Rupantor, that is how their campaign started, that we have changed the face of the state for the better. It didn't cut much ice because the ground reality was uh, pretty different from what the claims were, and they had to pay a price. And on top of everything else, Mr. Patnaik's biggest Achilles heel was Mr. Pandian, V. Kartikan Pandian. And as far as 3 months ago, I had written the more Pandian campaigns. He actually at various places I have also compared him with the Sanjay Gandhi of 1977. Like the more Sanjay Gandhi campaigned post emergency, he had all the state machinery at his command. But the more he campaigned, the more Congress lost. And I compared Pandian with Sanjay Gandhi and said that he is the Sanjay Gandhi of Orissa today. And the more he campaigns, the more the BJP loses. And I think the electoral outcome finally bears me up. He's lost. He I have also compared him in my writings. I have compared Mr. Pandian as the Bharatiya Janata Party star campaigner, because though he was leading the BJD campaign, he was actually helping the BJP cause. So he was effectively Bharatiya Janata Party star campaigner in the state.
So effectively, you're saying it's a combination of factors, anti-incumbency, Mr. Pandian being one of the big factors
The
than the whole.
number one factor is Pandian, Mr. Pandian, and Mr. Pandian. He is the single biggest cause, and it is he who
Right.
triggered the rest of it.
Mr. Banerjee, 2 months ago, there was a lot of chatter about whether the Biju Janata Dal will enter into an alliance with the BJP. There were some meetings in Delhi, in Odisha as well. And the BJD traditionally, especially in the Modi years, has seemed to be one of the parties that some call perhaps the B team of the BJP. In hindsight, do you think the fact that the alliance did not materialize between the BJP and the BJD cost Mr. Patnaik his chair, keeping aside the Pandian factor? Over and above that, do you think that the alliance, a formal alliance between the two parties, could have really helped Mr. Patnaik at least retain his chair?
That was the whole idea. We must understand why was Biju Janata Dal trying for an alliance with the principal opposition in the state, their principal opposition, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party. This move was essentially to smoothen the succession plan of Mr. VK Pandian. Mr. Pandian and his team realized early on that if they can bring the opposition, principal opposition to their side, then there is no one to raise the issue of Oriya pride, outsider, and everything, right? Because you are effectively silencing your principal opposition. So they sold this idea that BJP, they sold this to the BJP High Command in Delhi to great measure that your party is not in very good health in Odisha. So you better align with us and we will share the spoils of power together. We will run the state together. So it's a win-win. Thankfully, the BJP central leadership finally realized, no, they have been led up the garden path. Like they can take on Biju Janata Dal on their own. And that is how it failed. So, but effectively this alliance, the talk of an alliance, and to cement a formal alliance was a very clever trap that the Biju Janata Dal and Mr. Pandian effectively was laying for the Bharatiya Janata Party. And thankfully, the Bharatiya Janata Party finally saw through it and they refused to walk into the trap. Because also what would have meant is that over the years, Bharatiya Janata Party has worked hard, whatever, and they have finally come to occupy the opposition space in the state. They are the principal opposition. So if they had willingly vacated that space and come over to the ruling party side, who would have gained? It is the Congress which would have gained. Because in any case, whenever there is a ruling government, there will also be an opposition, right? People will vote against the government. There will be 40, 45, 50% of the vote for the opposition. So who would have did? Because if Bharatiya Janata Party had vacated that space, Congress would have got it on the platter and Congress would have revived. So it didn't happen. Like, it didn't happen.
Right. Let's look at this from the BJP's perspective. If you look at the overall context of the number of seats they got in India, yes, they declined by about 63 seats. They lost in key states like Maharashtra, like Uttar Pradesh. Odisha was almost a big surprise for everyone. And when you speak to a lot of analysts, they say that no, this is not just a consolation for the BJP. This is as good as a victory as anything else, especially in the Lok Sabha, and even more so in the assembly elections. At the moment, we're speaking on the 8th of June. There's no clear-cut name, as far as I could read, in terms of who the BJP would pick. So, do you agree with the assessment that this is just a consolation for the BJP in the larger picture of the country?
It's a huge,
Or,
huge victory. It's a very, very significant victory for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Like in Lok Sabha, they have got 20 seats, right? Lok Sabha. Odisha has given BJP 20 seats. Just imagine what would have happened if BJP NDA did not have these 20 seats. Come to think of it, in the larger scheme of things, NDA possibly would have fallen short of even a majority, right? So Odisha has saved the fortunes for the Bharatiya Janata Party, the NDA and Narendra Modi. So it's huge. The significance is huge. Also, looks assembly. Now, it's been quite some time that the Bharatiya Janata Party has been trying to expand its footprint to new territories, particularly the south and the east of the country. Because at some point of time, as the present results show, the Bharatiya Janata Party's stranglehold over northern states and western states will have to diminish or we'll have to lose it, right? It's already begun. In Uttar Pradesh, they have dropped. In Haryana, they have dropped. So where will they compensate or they aim to compensate? It will be the southern states and the eastern states. Southern states, it's been a mixed result so far for the BJP. They haven't really made that kind of inroads that they would like to have. They would have otherwise liked to have. But the results, assembly results in Odisha gives them a lot of hope now. They haven't been able to break into West Bengal because Mamata Banerjee has kind of kept her, strengthened her fortress. And in West Bengal, from 18 parliamentary seats which BJP had the last time, 2019, they have actually dropped down to 12. But in eastern India, it is Odisha is one state which has, like, BJP is now in Odisha. It's an eastern state, and BJP has managed to break into the east. And now,
Right.
going forward, see, I'm only deciphering, analyzing the results. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. That's not for me. I'm just analyzing the results. What happens next? And why BJP should be, the BJP central national leadership should be very excited about their results in Odisha. Now their next frontier would obviously be West Bengal. They have been trying, but without much luck. And this time they have actually come down. But now West Bengal on one side has Orissa, which is being ruled by BJP, and the other side you have Assam, ruled by the BJP. Now they can really go after improving their fortunes in West Bengal. It will give them a lot of hope, right? So I think in that way, on several grounds, BJP is showing this time in Odisha is very, very significant. One, it has saved the day for Narendra Modi and the NDA, minus these 20 seats from Odisha. I don't think NDA would have been very, very vulnerable, right? And the state has also given the power, the assembly to the party. So it's a great acquisition for the Bharatiya Janata Party. It's a great acquisition. They have finally they have won a new territory for themselves, expanded their footprint.
Right. Mr. Banerjee, my penultimate question: where do these results leave the Biju Janata Dal? Like you said, Mr. Pandian was something that the Odia people detested almost in a way. They did not like the idea of a quote unquote outsider like Mr. Pandian succeeding Mr. Patnaik. If you look at Odisha politics now, doesn't it leave a very big vacuum? Because if you look apart from Mr. Pandian, do you see somebody who can try or at least fill up that gap that Mr. Patnaik has left? Because mind you, age is not on his side right now. He's already past 75. So where do you see the future of the BJD? Now, before you answer, another interesting observation I just read about was the fact that parties that did not align with either the NDA or the India Alliance were routed in the election. So Biju Janata Dal was one of them. YSRCP in Andhra was one of them. So in for political survival, it's almost BJD's political survival at stake, and almost now they'll have to go back to the drawing board and read all their strategies. So where does this leave this party that has been in power for so many years in the state now?
There are a couple of things. One, I think it's the end of the road politically for Naveen Patnaik, because as you rightly said, age is not on his side. He doesn't have best of health. If you see him on TV, he walks slowly, he speaks slowly. So it's almost ruled out that he will be able to lead his party over the next 5 years, struggle, take to the streets, and bring his party back to the power, because age is no more on his side. Number two, what happens to Mr. Pandian? I think the politics for Mr. Pandian is over, because he drew his strength entirely from Naveen Patnaik. And if Naveen Patnaik is not in power, Mr. Pandian is a nobody. And now that Pandian has led the Bharatiya Biju Janata Dal in the elections with such disastrous results, obviously there will be revolt. Daggers will be out, knives will be out for Mr. Pandian. Who will listen to Mr. Pandian now? Right? He is a diminished character now. His politics is over. Now, whether he stays back in Odisha or goes back to his home state or Tamil Nadu, that's up to him. But politically, I think the game is up. Now, what happens to Biju Janata Dal? See, there will, as we discussed briefly earlier, there will be a space for the opposition. It can't be that BJP will get 100% of the votes. So there will be an opposition. I think these are testing times for a Biju Janata Dal because of particularly the aging leadership of Naveen Patnaik. If Naveen Patnaik had been younger and it had been 10 years or 15 years earlier, and had been Naveen Patnaik had only been 60 years old or 65 years old, he could have told his team that, well, I'm going to struggle, lead you back to power after 5 years. Now that luxury he doesn't have anymore. He's already 77, 78 and not keeping very good health. So that is ruled out. So what happens to Biju Janata Dal? Biju Janata Dal might split. Biju Janata Dal, there could be a new leader, but right now there is no leader. I think there will be a very soon we will see a struggle, power struggle within the Biju Janata Dal. We might, because in any case, nobody is going to accept the leadership of Mr. Pandian any longer. So there will be, and there could be a new regional formation because Odisha historically has always had a fascination with regional parties. Even Naveen's father led Utkal Congress, and they were. And Biju Janata Dal itself is a successful regional party experiment. So Odisha has always had this appetite for regional parties, or otherwise maybe the Congress, which exists, but it's in a very, very weak state now. It could revive. For all you know, Congress could revive and take up this opposition space. So it's up for the grabs. So who takes, what form the Biju Janata Dal will take, which opposition formation will come about, and who will take the space. All this remains to be seen. But as I would say, I would like to believe that the future for the opposition, and that includes the Biju Janata Dal, it's pregnant with possibilities.
Right, right. So you're saying ultimately a lot of possibilities now. This loss for the Biju Janata Dal has thrown up.
But
right.
We can rule out
Mr.
we can rule out some possibilities that if you say, tell me that Naveen Babu is going to politically come back, I would say it's ruled out. If you say that Pandian is going to politically revive, no, cannot happen. Okay. So there are certain certainties, but there are also simultaneously side by side, there are certain possibilities which we are not sure about right now.
Right. Mr. Banerjee, my final question to you, I hadn't written this down, but I thought I'll ask you, and it's far away from Odisha politics. I want to focus on press freedom. 10 years of Mr. Modi in power has been, one of the biggest talking points has been the freedom of the press, or the lack of it thereof. We've seen India go down as far as press freedom rankings is concerned. You, of course, have written about it with regards to the much talked about, much debated cover that Outlook magazine published during the second wave of COVID. 10 years of brute majority, now the BJP has been brought down, and suddenly we are entering this phase where coalition, the BJP will be taking along its allies, and it will no more be a brute majority. How do you see the role of press freedom in the country, given that the next immediate future, at least, we're not seeing a much stronger Bharatiya Janata Party, something like we saw in 2019 and 2014. So where do you see, and how do you see the role of the media going forward now?
It gives me a lot of hope, actually, the results. It gives us a breathing space. And now that whatever we know, like whatever has happened with the ruling, there will be a coalition now. So there will be various pulls and pressures. So I think the assault on us will weaken. And this gives us a perfect opportunity for our institutions, including the judiciary, the media, everyone to rediscover their spine. We were crawling so far. And hopefully this gives us a space to rediscover our spine. So I think I'm very hopeful. So let's see how it plays out. But I'm very, very hopeful. It's finally, we have got a chance. And it's to be welcomed.
Right. On that note, Mr. Banerjee, thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with me. It was really lovely, sort of understanding how Odisha politics functions and what lies ahead. So thank you so much for speaking with me. To our audience, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
And stay tuned to HW News English for more such conversations.
Thank you.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.